Paris Hilton, a post-traumatic parent? I was asked this question recently by a community member. She wanted to know what I think about Paris Hilton and whether I would categorize her as a post-traumatic parent. Hi, I'm Dr. Robin Koslowitz, YouTube's post-traumatic parenting expert. Today we're going to see what we can learn from people who have shared their story in the public and see what we can learn about parenting and trauma and post-traumatic parenting from them. If this is something you're curious about, if you are thinking about themes of trauma and themes of recovery in some memoirs or some shows you've watched recently, welcome. We get it. We're post-traumatic parents too. Please click subscribe below so you never miss another episode. So the short answer to this question is yes. Paris Hilton definitely qualifies as a post-traumatic parent. Now, is she a member of the post-traumatic parenting community? Not as far as I know. So if you're here, hi Paris. But let's take a little bit of a post-traumatic parenting analysis of Paris's story, and let's understand some of how trauma may have impacted Paris. Now, of course, I am not her therapist. I am not coming from a place of telling anything confidential that isn't out there in the public, but sometimes we like to learn about ourselves by reading memoirs, by hearing people share first-person accounts of their lives, because it helps us understand our own lives, especially if it's someone we resonate with in some way. And I think Paris Hilton, kind of fascinates people, maybe because of all the privilege and all the wealth and all that, the trappings of her lifestyle. But if you take all of those trappings away and you just look at her story as she tells it, you see a lot of themes of post-traumatic parenting. I think one of the key themes of post-traumatic parenting that you really see from Paris's testimony on Capitol Hill and from what she says on her show, Paris in Love, where she talks about the constant state of anxiety she has, even when she's at home and she's surrounded by her loved ones, when she is in a very safe estate, we're assuming there are bodyguards and there's security, she always feels a sense of threat and danger. And she directly attributes that to the fact that she was in Provo Canyon School, where one of the things that they do in the troubled teen industry is they, when children are being brought to these schools and these facilities, they actually kidnap them in the middle of the night. So these what seemed to be armed men came bursting into her bedroom in the middle of the night and grabbed her, and her parents were there, and she was screaming at them to help her, and they just weren't reacting or doing anything at all. And they abducted her and brought her to this residential treatment center. Now, think her parents were probably told by the people who ran these schools, and I think that in some of these quote-unquote therapeutic treatment schools, I think the staff is very slick and convincing. Obviously, I don't know Provo Canyon School. I'm not making allegations against them because I don't know how they ran their school, but based on what I've read and based on what I've heard, they sell the parents on this idea that it's tough love, and you're gonna take the kid away and put them in residential treatment, and we're gonna tough love the addictions and the bad behavior out of them, and we're gonna get them, we're gonna give you back the child you had before your child started acting out. I don't think Paris's parents thought about the fact that they were basically signing up to give their daughter PTSD. That being abducted in the middle of the night is likely the biggest fear of a child who lives in the public eye. When you're wealthy and when your family's in the news and you're on page 6, the knowledge that there are bad people out there who want what you have and would do anything to get it is probably already in the back of your head. Like, there are people who would want to kidnap me. That was probably a fear that Paris had always. And then to have that fear come true, and her parents were standing there and were doing nothing, must have been absolutely terrifying. I think a lot of people like to hate on Paris Hilton. I think there's a lot of envy that's underneath that hate. It feels like she goes online and she posts something about her baby and someone says about how the baby's hat is on backwards, or the baby, some baby's face is shaped funny, or any sort of, like people just look for any sort of mean thing they can say about her because her life appears so perfect, and it's human nature to envy people like Paris Hilton. But we in the post-traumatic parenting community can look at that and just say, you can have all the wealth and security in the world and all the opportunities in the world. When you have PTSD, you feel hypervigilant and unsafe, even in middle of armed bodyguards and even with the best security in the world. So we know what that's like. We know that, we know what it feels like to be totally safe in our homes and still be hypervigilant. So let's understand that experience likely gave Paris Hilton PTSD. I think on the show she talks about it in her memoir. She very clearly talks about her PTSD. PTSD leave scars, and PTSD is really difficult to manage, even with the best therapy in the world and even with the most supportive people around you. So is Paris Hilton a post-traumatic parent? Absolutely. Now, I was struck by something really interesting, because once this community member asked me to watch something on Paris in Love that she found striking, I was struck by the same thing. There are so many times in the show where Paris is being taken to task by people in her family, whether it's her sister or her mom, or her fiance, who later became her husband, about how she's scatterbrained and she's disorganized and she's not paying attention to tasks, and she's not preparing for the wedding the way she should be, and she's just frustrating to get things accomplished with. But then at the same token, you have a young woman who is running a multi-million-dollar enterprise. She's DJing to the tune of 7 figures. She's having appearances all over the world. She's running multiple brands. She is running a business empire. She's got a lot on her plate. There's a lot of people whose livelihoods depend on her. So she might not have time to pick the color of the flowers for the wedding. On top of that, when you've experienced PTSD, a trauma app starts to develop in your brain. And the trauma app starts telling you how to stay safe so that you are never traumatized again. For Paris, one of her trauma apps appears to be people pleasing. She talks in the book a lot about not wanting to have people get mad at her and not wanting people to be annoyed with her. And there's probably a danger signal that goes off in her brain, like danger, 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 people are displeased. Maybe I'll get voted off the island of humanity and back into Provo Canyon School. Because there's a little piece of her brain that's just waiting for the other shoe to drop and waiting for her to wake up from the dream that is her current life, and she's back there. Because that's what PTSD feels like. So when Paris doesn't want to commit to, the color scheme at the wedding, the flowers, seating arrangements, whatever it is that they're trying to pin her down for, you hear her saying things like, I just don't like making people upset. Like her mom has certain ideas about the color of the flowers for the wedding, and Paris has certain ideas about the color of the flowers for the wedding. But Paris doesn't have the guts to tell her mother, I don't like your color scheme. I want something different. Now, why doesn't she have the guts to do it? Not because she's not courageous, because this is one courageous young woman, but because the trauma app in her brain is shrieking, people please, don't get voted off the island and end up back in Provo Canyon School. People please, people please. Then there's another part of her that says, it's your wedding, you really don't like these flowers. And her trauma app says, just run away from the decision, just don't make it. Just don't make it. Just don't have the confrontation. And you see that trauma app programming playing out over and over and over again. Personally, I had some strong feelings when I was watching her family express their exasperation and frustration with her. And I get it. It's probably frustrating to pin down someone who can't be pinned down. And I have no doubt. She says she has ADHD. I believe her. She clearly has PTSD. She says so, and I believe her. And I get that must be frustrating. But her parents are expecting Paris, her sister is expecting Paris, her fiance is expecting Paris to act like a neurotypical normie, someone who does not have a trauma app in their brain. But she has PTSD. She does have a trauma app in her brain. You can't apply normie standards to people with PTSD. It's not fair because our brains operate differently. Have you ever had that in your own life where people are expecting you to behave and react as though you're a normie, but you're a post-traumatic person, and you're not? You can't do the normal, typical thing. Another thing that was fascinating to me about the entire show was how torn Paris was between the trauma app in her brain saying, earn more money, that will make you more safe, you will feel secure, you will feel safe. And the part of her that said, I want to connect to my baby, I want to have more time at home, I want to cuddle my baby, I want to be here for my baby. And that dichotomy is something that I am infinitely familiar with. That the trauma app in my brain, especially losing my father in high school, made me keenly aware of the need to earn money, and that money is security and money is safety. And I can sometimes really be a workaholic, but I want to be present with my kids. The problem is until, someone invents, until Elon Musk takes his brain and puts it towards making a time machine so that I can simultaneously do two things at once. I think actually the best part, the best fantasy in the Harry Potter books for me is the time turner that J.K. Rowling thought of. This idea of, you can turn the time turner over and then you get another hour and you can then do the hour over. Until they invent that, I will never fully feel like I'm doing the right thing at all times. Right now, I am sitting here, I am shooting this video because I value community. I value the post-traumatic parenting community. I value talking about these topics on YouTube. I love educating people on post-traumatic parenting and thinking about it and understanding it. And there's a little part of my brain that says, you are writing a book. You could be writing right now. Why are you not writing right now? You should be writing right now. This is not a good thing to be doing. And that drains my batteries and my resources. And there's another part of my brain that says, your kids are upstairs. You can go upstairs and play with them. Yes, it's true. You're going to play with them later, but you could play with them even more. More is better. You could be doing that right now. And there's a part of my brain that reminds me that I haven't organized the shelves in my bedroom for way too long and they really need to be organized. And when we have that sensation of should I do this, or should I do this, or should I do this, or should I do this, and they all feel like emergencies, it really drains our batteries. And very often what happens is when our batteries are drained, that's when the trauma app swoops in and says, I'll tell you what to do. So Paris is saying, I really want to spend more time with my baby. He's little, he's cute. I just want to cuddle him. I just want to be here with him and enjoy every moment. And then you hear her on the phone saying, yeah, okay, so I can do that concert in May. You can't do the concert in May and enjoy every moment with the baby. Your trauma app just sort of wore you down and then put in its programming and overrode what you really wanted to do. And I am not saying that doing the concert in May is impacting her baby's attachment to her or that she's doing anything wrong. What I am saying is that the trauma app is very powerful. And very often when we have that conflict, I really want to spend time with my baby, but I must work. The trauma app is the one that will win, unless we very mindfully tell it no and say, trauma app, no. It's really hard for me when I sometimes turn down a speaking engagement because I want to be around for my kids. It's not easy because there's a part of my brain that says, but, money, security, what if your whole business fails and that money you could have earned, you won't have it, right? The trauma app can really take over. So yeah. That's another aspect of post-traumatic parenting that really resonated with me in watching her show and listening to her memoir. I also think something that a lot of us can learn watching the show and reading the memoir is how Paris and her mom really work on repairing their relationship. It's not a perfect relationship. And there are times that Kathy Hilton let Paris down. Certainly, the installing PTSD in her brain part was, a letting down. But she kept showing up and trying to repair, imperfectly, but she's trying. And Paris, inviting a therapist and saying, I don't really trust therapists, but I have a feeling I'm gonna need a therapist to help me and my mom talk about this. So we're gonna do that. That's an act of courage. Because one thing I know is, it's difficult to bring a baby into the world. It's difficult to parent. It's difficult to, take on another human, knowing that their joys are your joys and their struggles are your struggles. And when you're a parent, you're the attachment figure and you're like the only game in town. It's like you and your parenting partner and a couple of other people. And this child's entire mental health really depends on you. It's very scary. But to do that when you've been traumatized and when you know how sad and scary and difficult this world can be, that is an act of courage. I often say, that saying of like, "'Tis better to have loved and lost than never to have loved." Yeah. But to love after loss, that takes courage. And to love after PTSD, that takes extreme courage, because you know that you're opening yourself up to trauma again. Because when you give birth to a baby, as the baby goes through the stages, the developmental stages that you were in when you experienced your traumas, you become re-triggered into trauma. So it is very likely that when Paris's babies hit the age that she was when she was taken to Provo Canyon School, it's very likely to be traumatic for Paris. And it's very likely to make her re-experience and possibly have to redo some therapy at that moment. Not because she hasn't healed, but because it opens up our brain to experience it again. So having a baby knowing all of that is a real supreme act of courage and love. And the fact that Paris did that she decided that even as damaged as I feel, I have the courage to become a parent, that's like every other post-traumatic parent on the planet. So for anybody who likes, I know that in the comments, we're gonna get some Paris Hilton hate, because people do that. Remember that envy simply points us to something we want, and from the outside, her lifestyle looks awesome, right? It looks like, whoa, imagine having that kind of money and imagine having that kind of wardrobe and looking like that. And, that looks just amazing. But we post-traumatic people know that it doesn't matter how much stuff you have and how great your life is on the surface. What matters is where your trauma is at the moment and where you are in your post-traumatic parenting and post-traumatic personing journey. That's really all that matters. So for those of you who are going to have that impulse to throw some hate for Paris Hilton comments in the comments, please don't. Because this is about post-traumatic parenting and supporting other post-traumatic parents on our journeys. And when we activate the judgment part of our brain towards other humans, we activate it also towards ourselves. And that's not a good thing, because when you start hating on other people, you really open up the door to hating on yourself. So I really want people to notice that impulse and mark it and mindfully and actively resist it. If you have any questions, comments, something respectful you want to say, if you agree, if you disagree, if you have other points, other things you learned watching the show or reading the book, comment below, because I will always respond to anything a post-traumatic parenting community member sends me. So even if it's a show that I've never watched, I will watch that show, because if you're asking for my read on it or my take on it, I will do that, even if it's outside my wheelhouse. I am not a reality TV fan, simply because for me, watching reality TV is kind of painful, because I just want to walk into the screen and tell people things, as a therapist, when I see somebody in Paris's family criticizing her, I just want to walk onto this set and say, hi, do you not get that she has PTSD? Let's understand PTSD here. And I don't get to do that because I am not actually at work right now. So it's kind of like being at work without any of the benefits of being at work, like being empowered to make a difference, like having a real connection with someone and helping them change their lives and witnessing their transformation journey, not to mention, getting paid for my work. So I don't normally watch reality TV because it's a painful experience for me, but when a post-traumatic parenting community member asks me to watch something or listen to something so that I can give my read on it, I absolutely will always do that for you. So comment below if there's something else that you want me to discuss, some other scene and some other show, or something about, Paris Hilton that you wanted to bring up that this sparked, or about any other post-traumatic parenting, community member topics. And as always, please check out the post-traumatic parenting community on Instagram. You can find us at Dr. Koslowitz Psychology. Check out the Post-Traumatic Parenting podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. The book is coming out in 2025. It's called Post-Traumatic Parenting. Are we sensing a theme here? And remember that the post-traumatic parenting community is built by post-traumatic parents. So if you like this video, please comment, share, save, tell a friend about post-traumatic parenting, because we are going to break the cycles that almost broke us, one post-traumatic parent at a time. Till next time.